What would get two young blokes in their mid-20s to want to get out there in a kayak and paddle from Australia to New Zealand?
Unfortunately though, neither of us had ever been to sea before. Slight problem. So what we did what many of you would probably do with a daunting task. We started asking all these questions. In fact, we wrote down 4 pages of questions and had absolutely no answers to any of these questions. Things like, what are we going to do with storms out there? How are we going to handle sharks? How are we going to handle 10-metre breaking waves in a kayak? What are we going to sleep in? And the list just went on and on.
My phone rings and I'm driving to work. Put the hands-free in, obviously, and answer the phone call. It's Mr. Constriction.
Justin, I've got this problem, mate.
Oh, g'day, Mr. Cass. How you going?
Mate, I've got this... James has got this stupid bloody idea. He wants to paddle a kayak from Australia to New Zealand. You've got to help me stop him.
Oh, I'd love to, Mr. Cass, but I'm the other guy going with it. Dead silence, and then all of a sudden there's just a boop, and he hung up on me. He didn't talk to me for about a month, and I normally get along really, really well with his dad. And I sort of, I've got to step up to the plate here. I've got to tell my parents, all right, Dad, come inside your bedroom, have a sit down in the bed. Mum was really, really worried, actually, I've got to admit, because she'd known I'd been spending a lot of time with James, and Mum, Dad, sit down, there's something I've got to tell you. Sat down on the bed, Mum just went white. I got to start. Guys, James and I are going to paddle from Australia to New Zealand. I don't know how she did, but Mum went even white and just started bawling and crying, it was inconsolable. My dad, though, did something pretty funny. Didn't say a word. Got up off the bed, walked slowly out of the room, out to the couch, sat down, lay down, and went to sleep for 3 hours. I asked my dad so many times before we left, Dad, why'd you do that? He's like, no, mate, I'll tell you some other time. I can't tell you now. The day we arrived in New Zealand, I pulled him aside and said, Dad, you told me you'd tell me one day, this is the day. Why did you go to sleep that day when I told you what our plans were? Oh, mate, I knew how much trouble I'd be in with your mother. So I was just getting all the rest I could then. Smart man, my dad, he's a smart guy.
But what we did realise was we could put a trip like this together if we formed a team around us with the best in each of their fields, and that's what we went out and tried to find.
And this stuff has got the consistency of thick white zinc cream. So 3 times a day, without fail, I get treated to a lovely view. I'm sitting in the back. James gets up in the front, pulls his pants down, assumes a position, leans forward, and then rubs this cream on his bum. More often than not, just staring at me while he was doing it. I was really, really worried. And he used to also associate, zinc cream, with family holidays, going to the beach and whatnot. If I have kids in the future and they've got this bloody stuff on their face and come running up to me, I'm going to think about him. And it's not an image I want to associate with him. From full honesty, Justin enjoyed every single day of that. But in all seriousness, just moving on. These were all very serious issues that Justin or myself had the knowledge to know what to do with these things, or the time to find out how to actually deal with them. So what we found ourselves doing was going out there and forming a bit of a team around us from right around the world to help us address each one of these issues in our risk management document. We were first to admit we weren't the best people. We didn't know what there was to know about the weather. We didn't know how to raise the sponsorship dollars out there. We had no idea how to put an IV drip and whatnot into each other. But what we figured was if we engaged a team, and what we did was we went to the very best people right around the world. And by the time we got on the Tasman, we actually had people from 16 different countries right around the world contributing to this one team. And there is no way we would have had a chance of getting across the Tasman if it wasn't for this particular team. Can I just digress for a second? Have I got all that stuff off my face? No? Bit there? Presentable though? This is kind of what the kayak trip was a little bit like, actually, I think. But it was interesting. I mean, none of these people individually could have gone across the Tasman. It was only by working together, by us sort of leeching and using the knowledge of all these experts in the field, could we actually, get ourselves across safely.
We went up the side of one that just got steeper and steeper. And then all of a sudden we saw this vertical wall of water that was about 2 or 3 metres above us, just collapse on top of us, flipped us on our side, and instantly our lungs were full of water. And we surfed down the side of this wave completely underneath blue water until we popped down in the trough. And I must admit, I was petrified, but then a bit of a smile came on my face. And I turned around to Justin and said, mate, this would be so much fun if we were just a little bit closer to New Zealand. The kayak had lost its positive buoyancy. So if we took on enough water, the kayak was actually going to sink. And it was frightening. It was from about 12 a.m. through till 5 a.m. We fought and fought. We were just bailing and bailing and limped back into Sydney Harbour just before we lost her.
We were the managers of this group. We let the team down. The team didn't let us down. We let a 10% shift happen here. And as a result, all these things just accumulated and built up and led to a kayak that just wasn't capable of taking on Tasman.
We can't possibly live with ourselves having given this 95%. We've got to give it 110. You can't set yourself a goal of paddling from Australia to New Zealand. It's just too big. So you set yourself little goals and targets along the way.
James is up in front of the kayak, and all of a sudden there's this big explosion of water. James leaps out of the water, does that whole Daffy Duck run down the side of on the water somehow. Daffy Duck run, jump into the front cockpit. I think there's a shark in the water. There's a shark in the water. I was like, oh great, I've never seen a shark before. Grab the goggles off his face, put them on, stick my head underwater. There's no bloody sharks. The tiny little baby fish. To give myself some credit, it came right past the front of the kayak, my goggles, and I honestly to this day think it was about a metre big. It seemed a lot bigger than what you saw. James always claims that everything was bigger underwater. Not everything was bigger underwater. And I can tell you, when something so important in the exhibition goes down so quickly, it's then that you start to reflect on the 4 years of planning and preparation work that you've done, and you're just thankful that on all those important bits of gear, you've got a redundancy and a triple redundancy. No, seriously, we had 3 levels of redundancy on the most critical bits of gear on board the kayak, and this guy, although it wasn't all that fun, was probably one of the most important. Now try and picture, you paddled along 12 to 15 hours on a typical day out there on the Tasman. Then at the end of the day, you've got to manage this for another 3 hours just to get your fresh water for the next day. Once again, in business, it's so important to have those redundancies built into place. You think you've done the right planning. We thought, the desalination that we had on board was bomb-proof, but that's what kept us alive, was having those backups on board. At the moment, the whole world's stuck in a bit of a current whirlpool in the centre of the Tasman with this financial crisis. I mean, that's what's going on at the moment. And if you go out there and get angry about these things, it doesn't solve anything. But if you work together and band together, then that's when you can actually start striving forward and making some progress in going and minimising the damage. Try to fight into the current. There's no point in fighting something that you just cannot beat. And again, coming back to what's going on in the world at the moment, there's no point in trying to push sales if they're not there. There's no point in trying to push things in the environment that you're around when they're not actually there. Sometimes you've got to think a little bit laterally. And you guys can tell, Justin and myself are just 2 normal blokes from Sydney that love our paddling. In fact, we probably like it a little bit too much. We just had this great idea. We wanted to take our paddling all the way across to New Zealand. But in order to do that, we have to do all this planning work, and we figured it really quickly that informing our risk management plan, which became our blueprint across the Tasman, there was no way we could have possibly done that to this big team that we formed up around us, a team of experts. Now, by forming that team, by having the kayak, we were able to get out there and start testing it. It didn't go as planned. It made us the most upset we'd ever been in our lives seeing it flop on its side. But by sticking together with one another, by using that team, we were able to keep on pushing, fix it up, and then after 8 months of testing, it was a hell of a long time to just test the kayak and make sure everything was good to go. We were able to get out there on the Tasman and push ourselves harder than we had ever pushed ourselves before.
And we're there paddling away, dog-tired, as the sun just on our right-hand side just starts to set. There's all these beautiful reds, yellows and oranges on the horizon. And then this little silhouette starts forming. And it was Mount Taranaki, the first sight of land we'd seen in 60 days. Right then and there, I just started bawling like a baby.